What time is it? Your show. Yeah, what time is it? Your show. Yeah, what time is it? Your show. Yeah, he's back from the dead. Your show. Putting it on the map, yeah. Saskatoon. Right next to New York. New York. Yeah, what show, yeah. Your show. What time is it? Your show. Yeah, time to talk some shit, yeah. Your show.
You've tuned in, yeah.
Yeah, von Maggie. Bark, bark, wolf, wolf, who wants a treat, yeah. Keep listening. You will not be disappointed.
Welcome to the Tuesday edition of your show. I'm in a singing mood today because Tuesdays have become a singing type of day. Welcome to it. The only live show going. What do we say? The 489,755th ranked show on YouTube? Accurate? We're working on the rankings right now. We got LB in the booth today, and he's on the ones and twos, and he's got a nosebleed. I don't know if it's like one of those butterfly effect things, you know, when you change the pass, and then it's like, I think there's a movie about that called The Butterfly Effect, and the guy's nose was bleeding. Either way, he's here. He's nursing that. We are going to pay some bills right now before we get to the guests of the day, and the reason why Tuesdays have become music day here on your show. Let's head on over to the Maggie Cam now real quick, LB. There she is! The Maggie Cam for Pet Planet on 8th Street, your pet's natural grocer. Mike and Rochelle, their beautiful dog Leroy, as well as Kirsten, Shar, and Chris, always there to make your experience the greatest experience in the history of shopping, not just for pet food and or supplies, but happiness as a whole. I promise you, head in there. They'll change your life forever. And say hi to Maggie's boyfriend, Leroy. Look at that beautiful face. Hey, God, how is she not a model yet? I feel like we should be working this girl a little bit. She's the most beautiful looking puppy on earth. Not like Jake the Snake, that plant there, that political and religious talker. I had to cut his mic off a couple times. Jake the Snake being the plant there. So head on over to Pet Planet on 8th Street, your pet's natural grocer. Tuesdays have become our favorite days around here. Sort of sounded like Notorious Big there for a second. Because we have two regulars that come here, and they started to come early now. So today was our first go at recording a show we will be putting out probably by the end of this week, maybe even earlier, as an audio show talking about nothing but music. We have two dudes here. Is that how you do it? Two dudes here. Either way. Not those two dudes. One Bad Pod, by the way. Every Friday. Check them out. New episode coming up this Friday. One of those dudes, you know him from his all-natural products. The other dude, you know him from all the bands. It's Uncle Mike and Matt!
Hello!
Yeah! I love this. Hey, how about the three-way?
All right.
We're doing it, boys.
Three-way.
The three-man screen here, and if you ever get confused with the cameras, just know that this one looks like, is this camera 2, LB? This feels like camera 2. Yep, so this is camera 2, so this will be the middle cam.
I just want to awkwardly look at all of them.
It's intimidating. As a guy who was in radio for a long time, you don't think about how hard doing what you do in front of a camera is. So once you get over that and you learn which camera does what and all that stuff, then we're good to go. So camera 1 will be on both you guys, camera 2 is on all three of us, and camera 3 is on this guy right here. That's it. I love how you're always with it, LP, even with the nosebleed, even hanging out in there struggling, you're still doing it. Before we get to anything, including that incredible music show that we're about to drop, Hacking Peanuts, Uncle Mike, our main man, Uncle Brando, decided to treat himself to an, dare I say, absurd amount of your delicious packing peanuts, all natural, of course, that you use for your shipping of your products. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us, did he do good or bad for a guy who ate about 12 to 14 packing peanuts?
Well, I would first start by saying I did not condone his actions. I did not encourage.
That's true. Hold on, I'm going to move this mic down a little bit.
Not a. I mean, they're cornstarch based. I think it's full stretch.
Yeah. If I turn a little bit, I just don't want your beautiful face. Maybe like that.
Oh, sure.
And then can you angle it towards you?
I'm sure I could.
It just goes back the same way.
Well,
You see that screen? Your face is too beautiful to be hidden.
It's
That's gonna be a
it's
little
almost
weird.
worse at this point.
I took my headpiece off, LB. I don't even know where I put it now. It probably fell. Anyways,
What about
continue.
this guy right here?
That's the one. That's it. Thank you.
So I mean, they're cornstarch based. They don't list an ingredient list because they're not meant to be eaten.
Whoa, what?
But,
I didn't see nothing on the box, bro.
Then why are they called peanuts?
but I heard it upset his tummy a little
His
bit.
Tim Tums were rough.
Yeah.
Like really rough. And he said he had numerous blowouts.
I would
that,
imagine.
That would be expected?
I mean, even just eating cornstarch by itself, like in the powder form, probably like you generally don't do that. I guess so. It probably had a similar reaction to just eating plain old cornstarch, maybe.
Okay, I see what's going on here. I feel like we should just straight up say, don't eat the packing peanuts.
Don't eat the packing.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. That's
right. That's right.
That's okay. So to Uncle Brando.
Is that a Jurassic Park reference?
I hope you've recovered. I hope you've recovered.
I think he made it through. I think they naturally worked their way. LB actually tried one. He didn't want to be shown up, and he only had one, and he said he only had one little issue. So
I mean, I'm glad at least someone tried them, even though I personally didn't encourage it.
and we're not wasting them, right?
No,
And they
exactly.
don't waste, I guess, anyway, because they all naturally just go away into the
Right,
universe.
they
Disintegrate.
dissolve in water, I guess. So
We tested it, and they do actually. It's kind of cool.
yeah, my kids got a kick out of them.
Well, yeah. Let's I mean, life is short. Eat a couple packing peanuts.
Yeah,
See
there
what
you
it
go.
tastes.
I was so
what's the
tempted.
hurt?
Like I said, if Aaron wasn't
with it.
here giving me that death stare, like, don't you be a bozo.
Don't you do it.
Don't do it. I would have crushed one for sure.
Honestly, you'd probably get the shits after eating a half a bag of Cheetos anyway.
Well,
so
it's true.
what's the difference?
Very true. That's a really good point. When it comes to all of the bad stuff you could eat, I mean, that's probably not the worst. It's not going to kill you. It'll just clean you out. He was talking about using it as like a diet supplement.
Right. Yeah.
To just blow right out and then go get your workout on and just build that mass.
Yeah. When you're
What's-
cutting weight.
Cutting
or
weight,
whatever.
that's one. Is cornstarch the thing that you dip your wings in to make them crispy? Like, what's cornstarch used for?
I tend to, when I'm doing a batter, I'll do a flour and cornstarch.
Yeah, I
mix.
knew it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
okay.
Yeah, it's like a thickener. It's
Yeah.
it's a coater.
A coating coating.
It can actually be used in cosmetics as well because it's super fine. I use an arrowroot powder just to get away from the corn.
Cornstarch used as cosmetics.
Yeah,
That's an interesting one. So like eyeshadow and stuff like that. Could I get gothy with some cornstarch?
You could. I mean, I
Go
guess it'd be
listen
the
to some
wrong
AFI,
color
yeah.
for gothy.
Well, you
You'd
could
have to color
probably
it to
mix in
black
some
or
color
something.
powders.
But it is, I believe, used in natural makeups, things like that. Again, I think people are getting away from the cornstarch because of the GMOs and the
Hold on, there's
glyphosates.
GMOs in those things?
Corn is like one of the largest GMO'd crops in the world.
Hold on, double time. Are you telling me that cornstarch is just corn busted up real finely?
Yes.
Come on.
I'm sure there's some type of separation, isolation to something, but cornstarch is the starch of corn.
Not just a clever name.
Yeah.
Story
Shitty
checks
Beatles.
out.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, it is Tuesday. The boys are here, and we did a bunch of talking earlier about basically, and we're all punk rockers. That's sort of where our heart and soul is. But at the same time, we got into a whole bunch of other stuff, and you will be able to hear this show within the next couple days, hopefully. I don't think I have to do any editing. It was that good. The only thing we do need is a name. But when we talk about these bands and the stuff that we, grew up with loving, I want to know, basically, where do you, and I'll start with you, Matt, if you're listening on an audio thing, wherever you find your audio songs or any of that, one of the questions we did cover was your favorite show or band or something that sort of stuck out for you over the years from all of these shows. And we all agreed, except for me, because I knew mine right away because it was such a monumental moment. But it did lead to a talk about, what we enjoy at concerts. And is there anything, and you can look back to the conversation we had before, but anything sort of that you look for when you go? Because I'm trying to mix the question up a little bit. Sort of what you look for when you go to a show, when you go to a concert. And with the punk rock, we all agreed, like the harmonies and the vocals. Okay, that's what made it work so good for us, because when it comes to punk rock, you get that driving drum and you get the guitars and you get all that stuff, but it was the vocalist that made it stick out and that made it unique. So with that in mind, has there been any sort of magic formula that works for you when it comes to like a really good show?
A really good show.
What makes a great show for you? What are you looking for? I know it's a weird, broad question, but I feel like we're warmed up after the talk we
Yeah,
said.
again, like I was telling you, like with that, the first Bad Religion, when I was 16, we drove to Edmonton, saw them in Shaw Conference Center, and
Got the hotel room.
he got the hotel room. You know, Murray was 18, so we were able to get a hotel room, and we were just like the kings or whatever. But because Bad Religion was my favorite band, like I said, on every book I was writing Bad Religion. When I'm playing Cool Borders, PS1, my name's gonna be Bad Religion. I just love the band so much. So like I had no idea what I was gonna expect. You know, I just knew that I loved these songs, and like all ages that best of. I just listened to that religiously, and when I saw them the first time, and just the goosebumps happen, and you're like, I can't believe like how cool this is. I would say that was right up there. And then like how I was saying with the Misfits one, where I was young, we're watching it at the old Louis, and Michael Graves, it was the Michael Graves era. And he comes out in the straight jacket, and I think he even like hit his head on an amp when he came out and stuff. But it just like seems so evil and cool, and
Stage performance.
So I don't know. I do like a little bit of like smoke and mirrors and bells and whistles. Like it's cool to just play, but it's kind of nice when they have a little bit of a stage look and stuff.
And it's different too compared to what we're normally used to, right? Because we just get the bands coming out, they blast their face off, and then they leave, and that was sort of it. So to have a different day, or as in an actual perform, like maybe like Iron Maiden with Eddie coming out and those giant sets that they would have, and it's more of an experience visually as much as it is audioly.
Absolutely.
Audioly? Is that right?
Audibly, auditorily.
Luckily, we don't fact check here. We don't worry about that.
But I guess that though now I've been to so many shows, and I kind of know the inner workings of this and that. But back then it was larger than even a punk rock band like Bad Religion, or seeing like Lagwagon or Face to Face. It was just larger than life, and I associated these with like the skateboard videos that I was watching. So now I'm seeing it in person, and it was just so cool.
That's such a great point too. Growing up, how important it is in those early years in structuring what you decide you want to experience at a show. Hey, Uncle Mike, you feel that? Like, is there anything that you really stood out as, oh man, this changed a lot of stuff for me as far as being at a venue?
You mean like, as opposed to just kind of listening to it in your Walkman kind of thing?
Yeah, being present when it's blasting you in the face.
Oh yeah, I mean it just has that much more feeling. I mean you can literally feel it, on your insides, whether it's the bass guitar, the bass drum, and then I think just the vibe that the venue puts out, I guess, the vibe, whatever.
Having your buddies there.
Right, for sure.
So cool. Like, again, a punk song's going, and then it goes into the, like some sort of just punk beat or whatever, and everyone starts a circle pit, and you just feel that energy, and the people that don't want to be in back out or whatever.
Back,
but it's just...
And that's usually where I am now these days. I would, when I was younger, I'd get in for a couple spins.
Hold on, did you get in the pit last year, NoFX? Or was that just Spur?
No, that was. I think
you hung out with
just
me.
those, yes, yeah.
And
I
you
was.
laughed.
They
You
really
got in?
wanted us
God,
to.
no. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I haven't been in a pit in years.
Yeah.
I think
wouldn't
the
survive.
Smalls at Louis was the last pit I was in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and
Yep.
it was one of those ones where I had about 2.5 beers, and I'm like, I'm gonna
do
do
it.
this. And I'm crazy enough to do this.
And how did it go?
Surprisingly good, but I remember because back when I listened to or went to a lot of the punk rock shows, I had short hair, where I have long hair now. So I know there's a lot of this where you kind of get caught between like somebody's body,
Right.
and then you're kind of just like
pinched.
stuck
Yeah.
like that. So I know that was a thing, but I came out of it, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's. I feel like that's sort of all of our mantras. Hey, it's like, we've been through a lot, but we're still here, and we're still enjoying it. As we continue on this Tuesday on your show. It is Gary hanging out with you along with my very, very good friends, Uncle Mike and Matt. Uncle Mike and Matt from all the bands, including into eternity. He gave me this shirt along with my Untimely Demise shirts and my Ravenwitch shirts. I got a lot of them, all thanks to this guy. I just talked about it, and I want to get back to it. When you listen to punk rock, like my dad would always say, oh, it sounds like a brontosaurus got his tail stuck in the door, you know, like all these funny jokes that still hold to this day for sure. How will you make punk rock sound different when most of the body is the same? Like we talked about the importance of having a unique vocalist, and then when we broke it down, it's like, yeah, that was basically it. The vocalist, that tone and the pitch and everything that basically involves the singing is what takes like the 95% of the similarity and then takes it to an entirely different level. And that's the band and that's the song.
Yeah, that you answered the question right there. It's 100%. It's the vocalist with all of these, specifically like that 90s sound or whatever that we love so much. But yeah, that pop punk, you need to have an original voice that's, you know, it doesn't sound too pretty, you know, but it was they could all carry a melody, and they're deceivingly tough. Like you listen to some punk songs and you're like, oh man, it's punk, it's easy or whatever. Right. And then you'll actually map out the melody and it's going, you know, sometimes everywhere. It can be quite covering high some ground, and yet they're still pushing with a chest voice. And it's like, they're impressive, but yeah, cool vocal. And then those amazing vocal harmonies. Like, man. I think most of the time when I sing along to punk rock, I'll always do
the harmony,
like the happy birthday song. I like hitting that harmony. Like I just,
it's so true. I'm that guy as well. It's like, oh yeah, you're singing the normal part. Loser, don't worry, I got the harmonies. Yeah. Oh, that's so. Uncle Mike, what do you think? The importance of vocalists when it comes to
for sure. And I think the kind of the basis of punk rock is about the message, I guess, right? And so bands get that message out through lyrics, and lyrics are delivered by catchy vocals, and I want to. I go to a show and I'll just sit there and sing along. I don't care who sees me or who judges me, but that's what I love to sing. So
that's what we do.
I think that's maybe kind of the hook, I guess, you know, for a lot of the music that we like is, and as musicians, they're talented as a, you know, whether it's playing a guitar or drums or whatever.
Well, that's the point. Once you're at that level, you're already there with that. So you're technically ready to rock. Mm-hmm. So how do you make it stand out? And like you said something interesting there as well about getting your message across, or your point across. And we had talked about the propaganda show at Sid's Garage and how that stuff comes into play. You want to say?
Yeah, oh, yeah. I just remember, again, I was younger and it felt weird initially because, you know, you're kind of like, what are you pushing on me? But when you would see just like all these kiosks of different, you know,
there's pamphlets and flyers and books and all this stuff.
And you're like, hey, wait, this is a rock and roll show. Yeah. But then you're like, wait a minute, I do agree with some of this stuff.
And then it starts to turn into, you hear it in the songs. That's what I found. Because there's a reason we have a very strict no politics, no religion rule here, is because those are the two things that can ruin any show, any friend circle, any conversation. The second that happens, we all know where it goes. And then I'm sitting here and I talk about my two favorite bands of all time, NoFX and Propaganda. The two most political punk bands probably out there, damn near. And I spent most of my life, like most of my actual life, listening to all these bands, not knowing what all these songs were about. And still to this day, I'll listen to some of these songs like, whoa, right. You know, and it'll peel back more layers and you learn more about society as you're growing up. And it's like, man, oh man, especially now in no politics, no religion, the world around us is so full of that. It's like we need punk rock to come back, and we need these bands to say, hey, you guys, you seeing this? You seeing what's happening? Like I don't know what I'm really getting at. It's just I feel like we need our heroes to come in and save the day.
Yeah, they're taking that snapshot of what's happening in life, you know, like the 60s and stuff, how there was that, you know, Summer of Love, and they were really captured that with a lot of the music, and it was happy and uplifting and stuff. But yeah, I feel like punk rock, it's ready. It's ready to make its comeback in another wave because we need it.
I need it so bad, man. And Fat Mike made another great example about how basically, Propaganda is one of his favorite bands, and they signed to Fat Records. So he was like this band with like Winnipeg, like Manitoba, I guess you could say.
Southern
And
Manitoba.
Well, don't get me started. No weaker lands for you. Anchorless. So you got that. Fat Mike says, I love these guys. I signed them to Fat Records. They sign his favorite band. Propaganda comes out being super political, and they start talking a whole bunch of shit about Fat Mike. And then people say, oh, Fat Mike, you hear what they're saying? And Fat Mike's like, yeah, well, I mean, they're my favorite band, and they're playing on my label, and they're basically ripping on their boss. Like, what's more punk rock than that? It just makes me love them more. And that sort of was that gentle reminder that punk rock as a whole is so much more than just the music, but the movement of taking down the establishment and all that stuff. And I feel once the punk rock got a little softer, you sort of went away from that and went into like, oh, I like birds and I want to hang out and be peaceful, stuff like that.
There's propaganda, like when did punk rock get so safe? I feel like they've got a lyric in there, and it's true.
No effects. It's my job to keep punk rock elite, and dinosaurs will die. Like there's all these songs talking about, like, you guys, like separation of church and skate.
Yeah.
Come on, right? Like they literally say in there, like since when did we start putting pads on the kids and send them to concerts?
Right.
When did we start putting up barricades at shows so people can't get up and experience a punk show? And it's just the slow decline of that. I feel like there has to come a time where we can, as a whole, say, all right, you guys have gone too far this way. Let's bring it back and let's show everyone how to do a real punk show.
Like, is crowd surfing, is that done now, or is that
LB, were you crowd surfing at Buck Cherry the other night? No crowd surfing for LB.
But like when I was younger, it was very like.
Did you do a lot of crowd surfing?
I didn't do a lot, but I know I did a couple times, and it was like, I achieved that level of
Right.
like, oh, now I've been to a concert, and it felt
Check
so
it
cool.
off the list.
And then obviously it gets annoying, like always getting kicked in the head by someone.
Well,
Like
this getting dropped, man. I always saw it as a horrible idea. It's so dangerous.
Yeah, not something I ever.
You never did it?
I don't think so. I don't think I ever wanted to do it.
I've never
I don't
had the
know.
urge either.
I was on the bottom end where it's like, I
yeah,
gotta
all right.
carry this guy.
And then
again.
like one person starts, and then everyone goes,
Right.
and you're like, you're
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
I'm
I'm
not
here for
to
the
work
show.
out.
I'm not
Yeah,
here
I
to
don't wanna
feel
lift
like
your
I'm at a
ass
gym
up.
right now.
And then someone always gets dropped, like hard.
And generally, it's like the fuglier, like bigger gentleman that's comes up, and then everyone's like turns.
No.
Yeah.
I remember a Warp Tour way back when a guy was climbing, and I mean climbing, like he got up on stage, and I believe it was F Authority by Pennywise, and he was climbing up this tower, and it was a giant speaker tower, like huge. It must have been like 20 feet, like so high, and he was climbing. And the band's playing, and the big part's kind of like F Authority, and so he's climbing up. He climbs up, and then right before they got to the hook, to the best part, the chorus, he looked around, and we're talking like probably 1,000 people out front of here, a real big landing pad for this guy, and he looks around, and then once they get motivation, like they get into it, and then they hit it hard. He looks at all the security guards at the bottom, gives them all the finger, turns, and jumps off the tower into the crowd, like 20 feet up. And this was when I realized I will never, ever, ever, not just climb anything on a stage, but jump off of anything on a stage. Because that thing opened up like the Red Sea.
Oh.
Like it just opened and he just landed. And I was like, well, I think that guy just died. And we never heard of any deaths, so that was good. But the medics came and got him. Like it was the drunk from emotions from such a powerful song. Like, have you ever heard the song F Authority at all? It's like it goes. Like it's to the point where we used to play it at parties, and then once it got to the chorus, everyone would have to chug. You chug your beer, whatever you had in your hand, you had to chug it, because it's like that song that makes you go, yeah, F all this stuff, yeah. To the point where a guy climbed a damn tower and jumped. Like the power of music, man. And that's when I learned I will never, ever stage dive, ever. It's not for me. I'm a pretty big fella, too, so I feel bad for anyone who's trying to catch me. You did do a backflip off a stage.
Yeah, we were talking about favorite concerts and this or that, and it was the Upper Mob and Louie's, and it was AFI just before they were going into their goth phase, and Jonto, one of my favorite Saskatoon bands at the time, and DFA was opening that. And Mike Lefebvre, he's recorded drums for us, and he does the sound at Black Hat, just a great staple in the Saskatoon scene. But yeah, he's like, if anyone can do a backflip, we'll give you a CD. And that was like me and all my buddies, like Matt Haynes and all of us, like we just backflipped off stuff because that's what we did. It was a time of Jackass and a time of all these things. And
man, what a time.
Yeah, I was mentioning how James from Junto was, becoming a lawyer, and you hear him from the back, don't have people jumping off the stage. Yeah, and I did the backflip, landed it, got the CD, and it was like a crowning moment of my life. And here I am today to tell you about it.
Do you still have the CD?
I do.
I love that.
Yeah, it's cool. I feel like it was it's like there was a punk house called the House on 6th, which I actually live on 6th.
Get out.
Yeah, but either way, it was like like the guys from Jonto and DFA, and there was like about 12 different characters that lived there. Everyone paid about $100 or $75 or
classic punk
But yeah,
house.
it was just cartoon sketches of all their caricatures on it. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
See, that's
if I can find it, I'll bring it.
I will, and I do want to give you all the props for still putting out CDs. It means the world to me. Like you don't find them anywhere anymore, and it bugs me because CDs are awesome.
Yeah,
man.
I get it's a niche thing, but you figure out how many you're gonna. There's people like me, so like if it's like
All the old balls.
let's press 300 CDs, and like don't press 3,000 CDs and expect to sell them.
And that's still my music or how I buy music, I guess, these days, because when I go to a show, then I get music. And surprisingly enough, that you go to a show expecting to get a CD, and it's like, no, it's all vinyl or nothing. I did see like even tapes. I think there's tapes are making a resurgence kind of thing, more so than CDs. And it's like, I can't really. I don't know if I have a
how hard is it
player.
how hard is it to make a tape?
Well, my little brother Mike actually makes them for us. He's got a setup or whatever, but we got the chromium dioxide tapes, the good quality, and it's pretty cool. We usually make about 50 or 75 every time we put them out, but like they get sold right away, and it's just. People like having, I'll say tchotchkes again. People like having little trinkets and stuff you can put up, in your little room or like, on your mantle.
And I get a CD doesn't have the same nostalgia. Maybe in another 20 years, maybe it will. That's kind of my thought. But it's like I never got into records, into vinyl. I mean, I think it would be cool, but when I listen to music, it's usually when I'm driving or when I'm working outside or when I don't generally put music on and sit and listen to it. It's I'm doing something else. I'm at work. I'm whatever.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you have a large CD collection that you frequently go through.
I have
get real nice and close.
Yeah, I have a tape collection that I've been building up over the last 15 years. So I got probably, I would say, like about 100 tapes, just like all my Megadeths and all of that thrash, and then CDs. I've got CDs that I've had from high school on. So like. That, would be in the 300 to 500 range. And then vinyl records, I would say about 250 to 3 or whatever. But again, it's all just like what I like. So it's, death metal, thrash metal, punk rock. And it's not like I've just got Sheena Easton and Toto, like.
It's current, curated for your current.
Yeah, if you look at that collection, you're like, oh, that's Matt's for sure. Like.
Yep. Which I think it would have to be, because vinyl nowadays, like, it's $50 or $40
and on
a record.
The seller's point, it's so hard because you press them, and sometimes if you press 300 or something, you might be in it for like $15 to $20 a record just already on your input costs, and then you send a record to Quebec. It costs $15 for me to ship it to Quebec. So now I'm already $35 in if I want to make nothing on it.
Right.
Yeah, and so like it's ideal if you can have labels that, can bundle and sell like 6 records at a time, so you don't have to spend $15 sending each one. It's like better to send $200 worth of music, and you only have to, you're pretty much paying the same shipping.
See, and that's why I'm always surprised because in my mind, CDs are like the cheapest to produce. In my mind, and then I go to a show and it's like, oh, I'll get all the CDs, and then they don't have friggin' CDs. And then I often wonder, with bands coming up from the States, is it they don't think there's a market for CDs, or is there something with the customs and the laws and bring in music, or, something that's over my head type thing? Or is it just they can bring records, but because they know they're going to sell more records and not CDs, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think people have just like everyone that's selling has kind of given up on the CD right now. But there is still a strong enough niche market that I think it's not dead yet.
Right.
Do you have a collection that you show off in your house?
Not so much in my house, I guess. I've got multiple. I mean, I do have still a couple cassette. Like I just found like some DRI tapes that were that are I don't know, from like mid 90s, I guess.
Old.
And a lot of my tapes have just gotten totally trashed because they didn't have the life. You would burn them out, right?
Wind them up with the pencil eraser so many times.
But CDs, yes, and I thought I was smart at the time because I was generally listening to music in my car. And so when I was a teenager, I took all the CDs and put them, in one of those folders or multiple folders, I guess.
Love those.
And so
stick it under your seat and off you go.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's what I've got in my car right now.
See, I think about guys like our buddy Sperman, who has his entire CD collection on display on a big rack, and every time you go to his house and you look at that, it's a conversation, and that conversation leads into listening, and that listening leads into remembering. And it's this whole cycle of emotions and feelings that you can go through, all started from just looking at a rack of CDs. That's so magical. I feel like we've lost that.
Yeah, that's such a thing for sure. I totally agree. You walk into someone's house, and then you just start flipping through, and you pick out a few.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of changed now, like where a lot of times we'll be on like YouTube or something if we're partying, and everyone gets to pick a song. So but it's lost something, and you still have to listen to the 2 10-second ads before. We're like,
God,
something about just being your own DJ and putting in songs and stuff.
That's why I got so I don't want to say offended, but so passionate about making sure that this channel on YouTube is never interrupted with commercials, to the point that if they ever do, because apparently once you hit a certain number of views or whatever, YouTube says, now we are going to give you all of our ads. Ha ha ha, we got you. So that came up, and I said, well, the only thing I can think of to combat that is that anytime there's a commercial played, I just make sure right after saying, hey, the Dufferin Avenue Media Network in no way supports whatever you just saw. That is not from us, and that's a commercial that YouTube threw on you, because we will never do that to you. Because I get so mad when I see commercials on my show. You guys fired me up. I was sitting in the house watching the stupid YouTubes, because that's what I do, trying to figure out what the heck this thing is that we're doing here. And as I'm watching it, I realized that we went from watching TV and then getting the DVRs, or PVRs if you're a nerd. LB corrected me yesterday. You don't say DVR, you say PVR. I got my earpiece out too, so you can't talk. Well, you get the point. Whichever one it is. That's how we eliminated watching advertisements from mainstream TV, because we would record our show and then we fast forward through the commercials.
Beautiful.
And so once we did that, what happens to TV? TV has now died. And now we're right back to where we were on YouTube. They force us to watch the commercials again, and we can't skip them because we're not DV or PVRing it. So I'm like, why are we going back to this? How do we get out of this? And it feels like this is, again, going to be that thing where, well, if you want to pay extra, then you don't have to see any commercials.
My thing is, like, it would just be nice if the ads were like back in like Les Paul, Mary Ford days, when they're doing their like 60s, 50s shows or whatever, and they would, do a little jingle, and it was
commercial
like,
for it.
it's a commercial that they're doing within the show, and it's interesting. And like I've went on YouTube and watched those commercials, and I find them that interesting. It's like, if we could have good commercials, I don't think it would be bad, but it's just like,
it feels more like part of the show than kind of
just entertaining.
Yes.
But, and sometimes they're entertaining advertisements.
Very, very rare.
But it's
so
rare.
That's like, I just feel like we're getting slapped in the face every single time we see those ads, and to the point where it makes me say, well, I'm not going to support whatever that is anymore, because you just ruined my YouTube video about some guy speed running this game from like 40 years ago. So guess what? I'm not buying your product. That's just me. I get a little stubborn when it comes to this stuff.
I don't care. It's like they've got a monopoly on toilet paper. I don't care. I'm not buying it.
Okay, so we're hanging out Tuesday. This is what Tuesdays are now. It's Music Tuesday with Uncle Mike from his All Natural Products and Matt from All the Bands as we continue. Coach Mazer sent in some incredible suggestions for the show to be named. So not this show, because this is still your show. This is our segment that we do every Tuesday. But before this show, we record a show. And we were trying to figure out a name for it. As well, Coach Mazer wanted to give a shout out to our main man, Garch's record collection. We go out to his place out in Melford. He's a rhino, one of the best pitchers you'll ever see. And he had this vinyl collection that would blow your mind. We'd always get drunk and go, oh, look at this album, this album. And you wake up the next morning, it's just empty record everywhere. It's so funny. So let's see what Coach Mazer has here for the name of the name of the show. That's about music, starring you two guys. He has The Untimely Uncles Show.
Hey.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's a solid maybe.
Staged Presence Podcast. That's an interesting one. I'm sure. Unfortunately, he's not here to explain
Elaborate.
Lots of them. Music and cornstarch.
I think that's a little too on the nose.
Talking about those.
What about this one? Packing Peanuts Podcast. The Triple P's. Packing Peanuts Podcast. You're going to love this one. The 21st Century Digital Boys Podcast.
Okay, yeah.
He's a 21st Century Digital. Out of Tune with Mike, Gary, and Matt. But that would mean that we're out of tune, and we always harmonize.
But I'm going to say that's my favorite.
Always.
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 Always. Always. Always. Always. Out of tune.
The Power of Music Man Show. I don't know. That would even. I guess we did talk about the power of music. The Crowning Moments Podcast, and finally, Turn It Up with Dan. Now that he knows we're doing this, he's going to send in a bunch more, I'm sure.
Turn it up.
Just to go back to the vinyl records or whatever,
Yes.
you know how you're talking about like waking up the next morning and seeing all the vinyl records everywhere. For me, it was always that like I knew I was maybe had too many Coors
Too
Lights,
much fun,
too
yeah.
many Coors Lights or whatever. When you have trouble putting the record back into
in
the
the
sleeve,
sleeve.
it really sometimes I feel it can take 10 minutes to get it into that sleeve, and then you give up on it, or you just like jam it in and then up wrecking the inner liner.
Dude, I have such a problem with non-sentient objects, like things that have no soul, clearly like a pair of pants or a pair of underwear. And if I put them on and my foot gets caught, instead of being a normal person, taking it out and do it again, I say, no, I'm not going to let this happen. And I power through and I tear clothes all the time because I refuse to reset. And I say, no, you are not doing that to me.
For me, it's the underwear because say you're just out of the shower and you didn't really do the full
dry. Yeah.
That's the issue. It'll grab on something and
Grippy.
you're just like, I don't want to
Today.
readjust.
Nope.
They're coming on.
I'm going. Yeah, and there they are. And now you got a whole new outfit.
You got a holy outfit.
Hey, there he is.
But there is nothing sexier than that little kind of rip between the elastic and the underwear, you know? Like, I feel that's what people like. That's what they like.
I wish I could. I really want, if it wouldn't distract from the live show. That's the beauty of a live show, is that you can't just run into the house real quick and grab 8 pairs of your underwear and say, oh, you mean these
Look at
holes?
these.
Because that's all I got, you know? So all the love to Holy Underwear as we continue talking about holes and music. So looking back, like I told you before, I said, I don't want to waste all the good stuff, but we had such an incredible conversation for that first episode of whatever we end up naming the show. When we talk about harmonies in general, we just did a beautiful harmony. What makes a good harmony for you? Like, do you need a lot of guys coming together like we just did? Or is it just like one guy layering, like we said, on his own album?
For me, I'm a sucker for the minor third.
I knew you would get
yeah,
technical, and I was
yeah,
hoping you'd do that. Okay,
I like
let's
that.
break down harmonies for a second here. Talk to me.
Yeah, so basically,
How do they work?
You got your main melody, and then if say you're on a piano, you hit the C note, and then D and E would be the third. But if it's a minor, it's going to be it's a E minor or whatever. So just getting that minor harmony is what I like, and I'll always end up grabbing that one. Or same with guitars, I tend to always go with that too.
Man, harmonizing guitars. Uncle Mike, is there anything? I know you can't break it down like he can.
Yeah,
I
can't
shouldn't say
get
I
into the
know, but I would assume.
Technicals of it all. Sucker for harmonies.
That's pretty much it.
I also like too, and again with punk rock, they'll do counterpoint or whatever,
Right.
Ooh.
where you've got the main melody and then you've got another totally different melody that kind of weaves into it or whatever. That's pretty classic for a chorus, and I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, it's like once you can take something that you already love and then put a harmony to it and this harmonize. Like I guess it goes back to the guitar harmonies for me. Like was it like Iron Maiden? Like the Maiden harmonies.
Yeah.
I've always used that sort of as a reference point when it comes to guitar harmonies, because like when they get going, and you can hear it during our your show intro, the countdown clock. You harmonize a bunch of those guitars.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's
there's
sick.
a lot of minor thirds in there.
so you get minors and majors, and it's just basically a numbers thing, I guess, right? Like you want to be at this number and this number on a general.
But then
keyboard.
there's the whole like harmony thing where like sometimes you'll just have like a bass note that's hitting the low low tonic note or whatever, and it'll weave its way up, and it won't always just be the minor. Harmony's a very intense.
It sounds
thing
like this needs
that
a
I
lot
know
more time
very.
involved. Yeah,
I know less than I
I do know that we can do harmonies.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, I think, as we try to bring it back. I look at these bands that use harmonies, like you were talking earlier about like Tony Sly, and talking about like just guys that get it to the point where they're so good at being vocalists and not just harmonizing and layering on your own, but so good that you can do acoustics, you can do like folk type of songs and still have the same identity that you have with your punk bands.
Yeah, like
Right? Like Joey Cape and Tony Sly, like these guys that come out and they're just so incredible at what they do, to the point where like, you know what? I'm just going to get my buddy, we're going to do a split, and it's just going to be straight acoustic.
But
just going
it
to go like
sounds fantastic. Like anytime you can take the punk songs and then just play them on acoustic, and you got the harmonies still. You need to have the vocal harmonies.
Yes.
I just need that.
Yes.
But you've got a good song, and so yeah, Bad Religion's able to do that. The Lagwagon, No Use for a Name.
Yeah.
All these bands are just so good at 10-foot pole. I feel like he's really good at that. But yeah, just vocal harmonies. And who doesn't like an acoustic guitar once in a while? Or like Lagwagon, Alien, the start of that. That's a good classic kind of.
Man.
Yeah.
Openings to songs. Openings to songs. The importance of setting a tone right off the bat. Is there any song that sticks out for you where it's like, okay, right at the beginning, that had me? Like I have one right now that just came to my head, and I actually had an experience with the song like last year at a party out at Candle Lake, of all places, and it's the Propaganda song called "Back to the Motor League." Like right off the bat, it just comes in like and it establishes at that, and then it stops, and it goes straight to the vocals of "I like to party effing hard. I like my rock and roll the same."
Man.
And then you're just like, oh, and it just brings you in. And then for the rest of your song, you're like, how do you create a feeling like that through music? Like right off the start. Like the importance of just hitting it home. And I know I'm throwing stuff at you guys, so if you don't have any real answers, that's fine.
Well,
So I remember that opening just grabbing me.
And I think that's, now you speak of that one, and that's a prime example, because it comes with the guitar, and then, like I said, cuts out. Yeah. So you're basically isolating, the vocals and the guitar, and it's a super powerful riff to start, but then the vocals hit just that much harder,
Like, don't give an F if I burn out. Don't give an F if I fade away. Like,
the
holy
lyric
whoa.
hits home, and his voice is so like it makes me like
Oh, yeah.
so believable,
Oh,
and
yes.
it just will listen to anything and be so drawn to it.
And I think that's another thing that we can talk about is I guess the idea that singing. I always go back to Fat Mike because he's my guy, but he's like one of the reasons why I always thought that I could sing if I was ever about like I could sing, because Fat Mike does it all the time, and he says it straight up. I don't know how to sing. I don't got a voice. All I have is like anger and passion, and like I have the punk rock in me, and you don't have to be a good singer to be able to front a punk band. I think that's what made me gravitate to it so much.
Like, and that's not saying that you're not talented.
No, of course not.
It's just you don't have a pretty sounding voice. The general timbre of it is not really pleasing to most people's ears. And I even like how Fat Mike, he'll do that where he'll like start a song where he's like getting his tune, and and like he finally finds it,
and then it
close
goes
enough or whatever, and then you're like, oh, that sounds so good. But it's like, oh, he's just like me. He's tone deaf.
The
This is
relatability.
awesome.
He's human.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah. And I feel like music nowadays, probably because it does on like a big music scale, lack any sort of personality or any sort of personal touch because everyone's just letting computers make all their music. And it's like, what you guys, like, if Skynet wasn't coming before, maybe the only way you can keep Skynet away is by playing your shitty computer created music. Maybe that's what we got to start doing.
I was actually talking because I had mentioned I was talking with Glenn earlier today, which is
Glenn Drover, you may have heard of him. Yeah.
But we were talking about like I forget some of the stuff I've dabbled with, not like auto tune, but I'll like have my track record it. And then I go through it and I'm like, oh, it kind of goes out there and you can bump it up or whatever. Yeah. And after listening back to what I've did, I think I kind of ruined them. Like some of those like inconsistencies are what makes it human and what makes it interesting to listen to. And when you take it out and just turn it into now my voice is just another instrument that's like perfect and everything's the same, it ended up stripping some of the soul out of it. So I know moving forward, I'm never going to do that again. But it was something that, I was tempted, because it's like, I want my albums to sound as good as they can. Yeah. It should be the best representation of the song.
It's a fine line between wanting to be great.
Sometimes you try something and you're like, you know what? I think it was better just being a little worse.
You say worse, I say personable.
Yeah.
Real. I say real. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, this guy just walks in nonchalant. He's like, I was just on a video call with Glenn Drover. And who are the other guys? The other guys on the vocal stuff? Are we allowed to talk about that? Or is that super secret?
You can. It's just I might be, or he'd contacted me about doing some vocals for him and Sean's band. Like they were in Megadeth, and now they've got other bands or whatever. Man. But he's like, you want to do? I'm like, man, just anytime. I'm down.
I feel like you're not giving this, like when you first told me, I was so pumped for you because it's such a big, but now you're just like, whatever. But you don't want to celebrate. I feel like this is something you should celebrate, bro. It's really cool.
I'm also one of those guys until it's done and I've got it done. Yep. I never, because I've had tours taken away and I've had everything. Too much. But I do like it because the last time I did work with Glenn it was Walls of Blood is the album or whatever. And it's kind of like he picked all these different vocalists and then me. Where it's like so there's cool, Tim Ripper Owens who sang in Judas Priest and Chuck Billy from Testament, Dan Cleary from Striker, and just like a lot of cool like Firewind, they're a cool like European band, but all these fantastic vocals and
guys that you grew up loving, right? Yeah. Like these are your heroes.
So now I've got the actual record, with me on the same record, and that's always one of those pinch me moments where it's just like, you know what? All the stuff I went through, it's for moments like that where it's just I can listen to a record and I'm on a record with my heroes and they wanted me to be on it.
They like me. They really like me.
Yeah.
But I just wanted you to get some props for that, and I guess I should have asked you before. I wasn't sure if that was like secret or not, but it's so cool to me.
It's something that's gonna be happening.
You have all these connections, and that's sort of something I feel like we can lead into as we move forward, and something that I sort of envisioned when I was trying to build this place was like the guys that I love so much that I want to bring in because I know you have so much to offer.
Yeah.
Like you're not just a music guy. You're so much more than that. You're not just an all naturals guy. You're so much more than that. And I feel like as we move forward, we can, delve deeper into those sort of stories because there's so much there. And the world we live in now has taken away so much of that personableness from everyone. And I feel that I'm always of the mind of how do you, stick out? How do you find a way to be different? And like, for instance, this place, it's like, how do we make this different than what everyone else is doing? And it always goes back to not doing what everyone else is doing. It's so simple. That's why when I did a radio show for 7 years, I did everything that I was told not to do. Because if you're doing it and no one else is doing it, then you're the only one doing it. And it makes you stand out.
And it's comes because of authenticity, and you're being authentic, and that's why you're bringing something original because you're not trying to be like someone else.
Yeah, honest boys, I hate social media so much, like so much, and I feel like that was it was the blessing and the curse of the old career because everyone loved the fact that the guy they were listening to on the radio felt the exact same way as they did about all the stuff that all the other hosts are doing except for you. So you make that connection and you make it so I'm not going to go out there do a break before I play it on the radio, take out every single breath, take out every single mistake I made, and then put it out perfect, because everyone is doing that. I'm going to be real. I'm going to turn the microphone. I'm going to go on. I'm going to make mistakes, and that's going to be the show. And that's what I did, and that's sort of how we continue to do over here, as this is a live show. You're seeing a live show right now. Shout out to Aquaman, by the way. Hit them up. Lloydminster and Saskatchewan. They do all of your water monitoring. They even have underwater drone inspections waiting for you. Love our friends over at Aquaman. We're so live, we can just throw that in there. This is what I mean. It's such a lost art, I think, in the world we live in now, that's so glazed over with perfection. And that imperfection stands out.
Telling about like taking out the breaths, like again, that kind of goes with like my dabbling with the auto tune, and like you'll go in and grab all the breaths out of the vocal takes or whatever, and then it sounds like you don't have that additional noise, but you're like, sometimes a little breath here or there gives it that personality. And, you know, when you have something like that propaganda, like I like to party effing hard or whatever, and, you know, if you hear a little breath, like you can hear the anger, you can hear the aggression in his voice, and it's cool to hear that. And if you were to take out the breath before and, you know, auto-tune his scream or whatever, it would lose something.
Yeah. Be real. Hey, not just a rapper for Cypress Hill. Like, that's a good motto to live by.
Hey, did somebody order a symphony? Yeah, I think we did.
Cypress Hill, is he? Yeah, man, I think we did.
Possibly. Hi, Cypress Hill. I'm looking in your direction.
Oh, man, I don't know what that is. Boys, awesome. I don't mean to alarm you, but our time is pretty much complete here today. Are you ready?
I know what that means.
Are you ready?
All right.
Are you ready over there? They're getting them ready. Hold on, I'm going to put my earpiece in so I can time this out properly.
Yeah, I'm not throwing out my neck again.
Oh, you got into it, man. I was telling you earlier, I made a promo out of that one. You'll be able to see it all over the network here. But the best line of the whole promo is when I'm just acknowledging what's happening. And Matt from all the band says, yeah, you can hear the emotion. It's so raw. It's like so full of emotion. Like it really was. LB, if you're wondering why I took my headset out, it's because it's about to die. And I also just didn't want to hear you complain about all the mistakes I was making. Were you talking the whole? Oh, okay, that's better. That's all right. Let's get Frank in here.
That was a very nice gesture.
I love you too. I can't believe you made like that heart thing that people do. He's like this. He's like, I love you, Gary. I was like, man, it doesn't really look like a heart. You got some Frankies for us to play out? All right, boys. Begin. This might be a promo every week. I just love this so much. What a show. And it feels like an extra long show. Like to actually break this down, we've been doing this show since 2:30. Like we just carried over our conversation as the power stats begins. And thanks to these two guys. These are my bros for life. I love you guys so much. Thank you for giving us some time today. Don't hurt yourself. And every Tuesday. Is this what you get on Tuesdays now? You get Matt from all the bands. You get Uncle Mike from all the natural products. And we talk music. The new music show, we got a bunch of working titles. We're going to drop it hopefully this week. And it's an audio show. So if you're one of our friends, like my buddy Adam, who works for the Postal Service, who listens audioly to our shows, be looking for that one, as it's basically what you just saw and heard and experienced. To LB, fighting through an injury with the old nosebleed. You stopped her? That a boy. Good stuff. Thank you for always doing what you do. We love to appreciate it greatly. Coach Mazer for sending in a bunch of good ideas for show names. Oh, we got one more. Oh, here we go. I'm going to end it with a couple more from him. The Too Much Fun Pod. Holy underwear, but holy is spelled like whole, H-O-L-E. How about this? 3 hunks on punkin' metal. I think he's saying we're punks. Oh, no, we're hunks. We're hunky.
3 hunky punks.
The 3 hunky punks. That might be even better. The Mixtape Podcast. That's kind of fun. And Matt's set list with the Uncle and Junior. Coach Mason. This is why he's our go-to guy though when it comes to ideas. He's our ideas guy. He's such a good ideas guy. Oh, what a day. So thank you to you guys. Thank you to our incredible sponsors. Hit up dufferinave.com if you want to be a part of this party as we continue. I hope you can feel how much fun we have each and every day here from 4 to 5 p.m. on Monday to Friday, because it is so much fun. If you ever want to come down and experience, let us know, as we love to hang out with you. Do not forget, we also love making the world a better place. Be kind to each other. Stop caring about yourself. Start caring about other people before yourself, and you will notice the world will become a better place. That is how we do it. Anything else, boys? We got about 5 seconds.
Have a great week.
Perfect. Have a great night.